Welcome to the Rising Lioness Podcast on All About Animals Radio, a place dedicated to animals and all those who act to protect and advocate for them. Hi, I'm your host, Erica Salvemini, and I'm thrilled and honored to be here representing All About Animals Radio using my voice for the animals. Thank you for joining us for what intends to be a thought-provoking and soul-inspiring series where we discuss topics aimed at understanding the importance of the relationship between empathy, animal rights, and our peaceful coexistence with the animal kingdom. And now on to our show. Hi, thanks for joining me today. This is Erica Salvemini. Many of you know me as the host of the Rising Lioness Podcast on All About Animals Radio. I am also a Master Reiki practitioner. I've been offering gentle, transformative healing to pets and their people for also nearly 20 years. And I've also been the creator and owner of Just for Paws Pet Spa, the compassionate, gentle pet care provider in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. And today I represent all three of those roles as I come to you doing this podcast on YouTube and also on all the major podcast platforms. And this podcast has allowed me to be a spokesperson, a voice for the voiceless, for the animals, and also for the people who love them. And so I'm very grateful to All About Animals Radio for allowing me to be a host on my own show. It's been an incredible opportunity, and the vast knowledge that I've learned over these last 20 years working with pets at Just for Paws Pet Spa has also allowed me to come to this point today where I'm able to speak about compassionate pet care and the necessity of it in the marketplace, and to bring awareness to the fact that there really isn't much of it. And so for the last 20 years I've been doing this work. I have been talking about and banging a drum a little bit, at least in my small little part of the world, about compassionate pet care and why it's so important and why we shouldn't be treating animals like commodities and exploiting them just for money. And that's not just in the pet industry, but in the world, in every facet, whether it is in farming, whether it is in trophy hunting, whether it is in the exotic animal trade, that very dark industry that exists. Animals are not ours to exploit. They are here to live and be free. And so that I'm coming to you from a spiritual aspect, as a master Reiki practitioner, as well as someone who's been providing compassionate pet care for 20 years and who's also a staunch animal advocate. So I have, as I said, I'm wearing all three of my hats today. And so with that, I will turn it over to the actual podcast, where I'll introduce you to Vickie. I'll introduce you to Baci, who will be on Vickie's table, and we will be actually demonstrating a little bit of a gentle pet grooming session and what that looks like. And Baci is a Bernedoodle, a Bernese Mountain Dog mixed with a standard poodle. So he's a big boy, medium size, maybe about 50 to 60 pounds or so. So he looks like a big dog, but he's really just a puppy. And so he's just learning the ropes with grooming. And so gentle pet care, patience, love, and sharing energy, our energy with the pet's energy, is extremely important and critical. That's all part of what gentle pet care is about. And so we're going to do a little bit of a demonstration of that. And for those folks who are listening and not watching on YouTube, we will try and talk through everything that we're doing and talk about what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it, and how it is important for the emotional wellness of the pet, as well as, of course, making him beautiful is great, but the priority is first and foremost with making sure that he is comfortable, he's happy, and he feels safe. And that's really anything that all of us want and deserve and have the right to. And so that gets at the core of what compassionate pet care is all about. That's what we'll be talking about today. And I hope you'll stick around, and we are going to start that demonstration in just a moment. So I'll be right back. Thanks. Hi, right, today we have Vickie and Baci here with us, and we're going to be talking about compassionate pet care and what that means to us and for the industry today. Thanks so much for being here with us today, Vickie. And this is Baci.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about Baci, and then I'm going to ask you a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, tell us about you.
So Baci is a Bernese mountain dog mixed with a poodle, which is also known as a Bernedoodle. Yeah, he's a little bit less than a year old, so we're going to try to see if we can get him a bit groomed today.
Very nice. Right. So I've been doing this work for just about 20 years, and you've been doing this for almost 10 years, right?
Yes.
So between us, we've got quite a bit of experience working with animals, and so I thought it'd be great if we talked a little bit today about why it's important to use gentle handling with animals and with their energy. And I thought it'd be great for us to work with Baci, since he is a puppy. He's a big dog, right? So he might not look like a puppy, but he actually is a puppy, and so they have special requirements with grooming. All pets have special requirements with grooming, but because he's still a puppy, he's still learning the ropes, right? So I thought maybe we could start with finding out a little bit about why you are doing the work that you're doing. And my main question would be, you work with animals.
Yeah.
That seems to be maybe your calling. And did you always love animals? Was that something that was always a passion of yours?
For as long as I can remember, I loved animals. I would always stop at the street when I would see a dog walking and, try to pet it and say hi.
That's nice. Yeah, I can relate to that, absolutely. And so animals probably maybe gave you a sense of peace and comfort?
Yes, very much so.
And so did you always know you wanted to work with them?
No, because in the beginning I didn't really know this existed until I went to high school, and then it just opened my eyes on, all the possibilities on dogs that, stuff that can be done with
That's
them.
amazing.
Yeah, to them, help them out and everything.
So you went to a specialized school dedicated to like a tech vocational school?
Yes.
I understand. Okay, and so in that technology or that tech program, or vocational rather, you work with animals.
Yes.
And that's where it started in high school for you. Wow, so you've been doing this basically since what, 13 years old?
16.
16?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well that's pretty awesome. And so it became pretty evident,
Yeah.
I guess,
Yes.
that you were doing the right thing and
Definitely,
you were doing what you were meant to do.
Yeah, I loved it. There was not a day that I didn't go to school and I wasn't excited about working with the dogs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so right from high school you've been doing this ever since.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And so maybe today you can show us a little bit about the work that you do with animals. And what would you like to start with Baci?
So,
has he been bathed yet?
No, not yet. We're gonna do a little bit of cleaning first. I'm trying to see if we can get around his eyes because he is a little bit difficult around the area. So I am gonna start with the brush. Hi, mister. And I do like to talk to the dog so that they can,
Feel comfortable.
feel comfortable and know that everything's gonna be okay.
Right.
If I see that, it's not working, then I'll stop, talking to them because sometimes dogs, they don't like when you talk to them when you're getting groomed. So
Right, they're all different.
They're all different.
Right, they all have special requirements, and that gets to part of what compassionate pet care is as well. Is that we cater to the needs of each individual pet and what they need, and we use our energy to work with them. Right, and first thing we want to do is communicate with the pet, greet the pet, say hello to the pet, have respect for them as being sentient beings. Right, and then they feel comfortable, and they know if we feel good, they're gonna feel good.
Yes.
Because they do feed off our energy, don't they?
They definitely do.
Yeah. And so with compassionate pet care, you're gonna support their needs as much as you can, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm saying that as though I don't know, but I do know because I've been doing compassionate pet care myself for the last 20 years. I'm gonna help hold him up for you, because also part of gentle pet grooming, handling, means that you sometimes need extra help, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So you're not always working alone.
No.
A lot of times we're working side by side with somebody else who can help hold the pet, support the pet, talk to the pet while the other person is maybe doing the work. So what is it that you're doing with him right now?
So right now I'm trying to brush out his cheeks. And it's giving me a little bit of trouble, but that is fine because we can work around it.
And he is still a puppy too.
He is still a puppy, so usually puppies tend not to like to get held by their chins because they're not used to it.
Or told to do anything.
Exactly.
Right? You're cute. We let you get away with stuff. But when we're grooming them, they do have to learn that we're working too. And so we get to, hopefully if we get to work with them when they're young, we can start the training process early.
Yes.
Which is really nice. And we get to do it the right way. And that's another part of compassionate pet care, especially with puppies, is the very first time they're with us, we want it to be really special for them. Special in a good way, not special in a bad way. We want them to remember it as
have a really great experience.
Yes, exactly. And so that's a really big part of what we do in this kind of work with animals, is being mindful of making sure they have a nice experience, you know. And he's got a nice calm demeanor right now, even for a puppy. Like, you know, his breath is steady. It's not, you know, a heavy pant. He is licking me, which is nice. So he doesn't, he's not jumping or howling or trying to get away. And he's letting you brush his knots out of his face, which is really nice. So what do you think would be a good way to demonstrate some of the other things that you would work on before you put a dog into a bathtub? So some of the stuff that you do, like as pre-work before they go to the bath.
So we can also work on the pads. I'll give them a little break on the face.
Okay.
You know, you want to lift him up.
And I can talk to him while you're doing that and help keep him calm, because a lot of times I know that they don't like their feet touched and they feel a little bit funny about it, and they might do some donkey kicks or resist vehemently. Don't touch my feet. What are you doing?
So right now I'm caressing the leg so that he can kind of know that I am going to pick it up.
That's a nice respectful thing to do for a dog.
You know, kind of let him know, like, hey.
So it's like a tap, tap, tap. Hi, I'm here now. As opposed to, imagine walking down the street and somebody just like grabbed your leg. You'd be like, what the hell? What are you doing? So I always say that. It's nice to give them a little bit of a tap and a heads up and let them know that we're coming for their foot so they can get prepared for it.
So I'm going to lift the leg. I am going to lift it towards the back. I don't want to do it towards the front because that would be very uncomfortable for him.
So you're lifting his leg in the way that his actual joints are bending.
Yeah.
I understand. So comfort is of the utmost importance for our animals. We want to make sure that we're working with them in an anatomically correct way. He's doing so good. So you're shaving the hair out from underneath the pads.
Yes.
So that dirt and debris and stuff from outside when he's walking does not get stuck in there. That's awesome.
Now I'm going to lift up the other one, and I'm going to do the same thing.
You're doing so good. He's a good boy. Who's a good boy, Baci? You're a good boy. You're the best boy in the world. He's doing really good. Yeah.
Good job, Mr. Baci.
So after you shave his pads out, will you be doing some nail trimming maybe?
Yes.
Oh boy, that's going to get exciting, folks. Because we all know how much
most
dogs love their nails cut. But he's going to do just fine. And we can just do a little bit at a time. And
I also think that it's very important to have a positive mindset when working with dogs, because if you kind of tell yourself, oh my god, I'm not going to be able to do it, then you're already, you know,
right, you're setting yourself up for failure as well as the pet, which is never a good idea. So I get that. Positive thinking, positive affirmations are extremely important. When working with pets, it's very much like working with children. And if you're not feeling good that day, that morning, it's never a good idea to push yourself through it, is it? So sometimes just being wise enough to take the day off, or just take a few minutes and center yourself and ground yourself. Check your energy. It's super important to make sure that we feel good and show up our very best for them, right?
Yeah. So then I'm going to lift up the front leg, and then I'm going to lift it towards the back, like I did with the back one.
So we're bending them backwards as opposed to pulling his leg forward, which is another way that you can cut the nails. And sometimes it's different for every single one of them, isn't it? So sometimes the
what they allow us to do with them.
Sometimes the dogs will allow it to go backwards. Sometimes you have to hold the foot out in front of the dog. Really good job, Baci. We cut the hair out of the pads.
Mr. Baci, good boy. You see it's okay.
will you start with his nail cutting in the back the same way that you did with the pads?
Yes.
Just to get him used to the situation and what's happening? All right, Baci. Look deeply into my eyes. You're going to be just fine. Everything's going to be just fine. Just fine.
I'm lifting up the leg.
Hi. How are you? Hi, Baci. Look at me. I saw you reaching into your pocket before. Do you have some secret stash for this puppy by any chance?
Yes,
I heard your
carrots.
Carrots. Maybe if you pass me a couple of carrots, I can dangle the carrot while you're cutting his nails. Okay, super. I have your favorite. Oh my goodness. I have your favorite. You're a good boy. You're doing good boy stuff.
Good job, Mr. Baci.
That's a good boy. That's a good boy. And
so the back nails are pretty short.
Which that happens a lot, doesn't it?
It does, because they do when they walk, especially.
Right.
It files it down for them,
That's excellent. So we'll do a quick check, and if he doesn't need them, then we'll move to the front nails and do it that way.
Yeah.
You just got a pass, buddy. Good job. That means your mom will wash you a lot. That's awesome. Your mommy loves you. You're a good boy. Good job.
Let me see. Let's do the front ones.
Who's doing good? Who's doing so
Front
good?
ones are
Who's doing so good?
short too, but they can be tipped off.
Great. So just take a little bit off, right?
Take a little bit off.
You have to watch that quick, right?
Yes, you have to watch it, because if not, you can make it bleed if you go past
Too
it.
short. That's the vein inside the nail, quick. So you just cut a little bit at a time, and if they don't need that much taken off, you can always just file it. That's a good boy. Give you some hugs and love.
So then you can just come a little bit here.
And back just a little bit, buddy.
Just a little bit.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you, Bubba's.
You're doing so good. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?
Good job, Mr. Baci. Good boy, Mr. Baci. There we go.
So, Vickie, you have a really great demeanor with animals, and you make it seem kind of mindless. Like it's just natural for you. It's innate, which is the way it should be, and it's wonderful to see and witness because Baci's doing really well with you. Is it always like that for you? Do you use certain calming techniques, like when you're in a situation with a dog where the dog is fighting you, the dog is biting you, the dog is, and you start to sweat in panic.
Yes.
What am I going to do? How am I going to get through this? What are some of the things that you...
So I feel like when I catch myself on the verge of almost like saying like, oh my God, I'm super, super stressed, I stop myself and I take a deep breath and I say, it's gonna be okay, we're gonna get through this. And then at the same time, I'm also passing that positive energy to the dog to let him know as well, like, hey, like, we got this, like, we're gonna get through this.
We're in this together.
Yes, we're in
this together.
That's super
nice.
Yes. And I feel like it does help me a lot because I've worked with many difficult dogs and I can tell, when I pass that energy through the dogs that they can, trust me, they trust me too, that I'm gonna do the best for them.
That's beautiful. That touches me in my heart, which is really sweet and really, and I'm sure that they feel that too.
Yes.
Just going into it with positive reinforcement and love in your heart.
Yes.
Leading with your heart in anything that you do, no matter what your career, what your vocation, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yes.
It makes all the difference in the world.
Definitely, it definitely does.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm sure Baci really appreciates it. I can tell he does. He might be a little bit stressed with some of the things that you're doing here today. Because, let's face it, when we go get our hair cut, we just sit in a chair and we can have a nice conversation and talk about nonsense at the hairstylist. But with dogs, we put them on a table and we ask them to do natural things like stand for a couple hours at a time, or if they're matted, we have to brush out their mats or give them haircuts, cut their toenails, and we expect a lot of them. And so it's really nice to understand that for them and respect them, and that all gets to what compassionate pet care is. And so, is there anything that I maybe haven't touched on yet that maybe for you, what does compassionate pet care mean for you specifically? Like what word comes to mind?
Patience is the number one word that comes to mind because you have to have a lot of patience to work with a wiggly dog that's moving back and forth, and also for them to feel that, you know, you're not going to get frustrated so easily with them. You know, they don't understand what, you know, most of the dogs don't understand what they're getting done. They don't understand that, you know, you're passing a clipper through them. They're just like, oh, something's vibrating in my body. Like, you know, it feels weird. Like, what is going on? So, you know, that we have to have a lot of patience for them, you know, while we're doing them, when we're working with them and all that stuff.
That's beautiful. And I totally agree. Patience, which is lends to compassion,
Yes.
doesn't it?
Yes.
You know, having compassion for yourself, to know what your limits are, your personal limits, knowing what you can and cannot do, and that will bring you self-confidence. And if you have confidence, then you're going to pass all of that on to your pet, which sounds like that's everything that you're saying, and how you work with your pets, which is probably what makes you so successful, what you're doing, and why you still smile every day at work, and why it feels good to you, and why you have great success working with animals that maybe have a harder time in a traditional grooming shop environment. But when you work in a way that is compassionate and gentle and with respect and love, the animals can feel that and sense that, so you're going to have a better response, and you can groom probably a lot more of the pets that other places maybe don't groom because they can't, honestly. Or if they do and they try and they push the issue, when a pet is resisting, and they're just trying to force it, that's going to become an unsuccessful groom, and sometimes worse. And that is unfortunately some of the stuff that we read about in the news, which is, you know, why people wonder, and it's awful. It's just awful. You know, everything from my dog was emotionally traumatized. You don't really know why. And people say to me, you know, for years, my dog came home, my cat came home, and they just weren't the same for days. They were hiding. I don't know what happened. They weren't cut. There was no obvious, you know, physical wounds. But sometimes it's the emotional trauma and mental trauma that can be way worse, because that's the stuff that sticks. And we don't know what to do, and it leaves us helpless as pet parents. You know, we're groomers by trade, but we're pet parents as well. And you know, these are our babies that we share our lives with, and they're our family members, and we want to make sure that they're taken care of in the best possible way. In the same way that we want our two-legged children taken care of, we want our pets taken care of too. So that kind of all encompasses what compassionate pet care is about. And I really hope that, I hope for the compassionate pet care to become more, you know, visible or aware in the marketplace, for people to know, and you know, pet parents can and should ask at their grooming shops, wherever you are, you know, how do you work with our pets? Do you know anything about compassionate pet care? And if they don't know what you're talking about, that's okay. You can just kind of talk to them. That's how I would recommend for the people anywhere listening to this around the world, frankly. You know, you are all within your rights to educate, you know, the groomers. A lot of places in, you know, around the world, they're not necessarily trained in the way that they should be. And it doesn't mean that they're at fault. It doesn't mean that the grooming shops, the business owners, the groomers are at fault. Sometimes, yes, humans are negligent, and sometimes they don't necessarily take the time and patience to try to do things the right way. But I really do believe that people go into this work with animals to help and to do good, and sometimes they lose their way. But we, as, you know, companions to our animals, we have a duty to protect them and to make sure we get them, you know, what they need. And so you can call a grooming shop and you can ask, how do you work with pets? How do you work with animals? Do you talk about, do you do gentle handling and what that means? Where do you put the harness around the dog in the grooming shop? Because a lot of times, especially with the smaller dogs, Baci's a little bit bigger, but like with a Maltese or a Yorkie, where do you put the harness on them when they're on the table? And the harness is this lead that either goes around the neck of the dog and all four legs are on the table, or it goes around the chest, which I see you put it around the chest and under the armpit, which is a really nice way to keep your dog on the table, because it's safer, isn't it?
It is safer, because God forbid he were to try to, you know, jump, it would, you know, it wouldn't hold him on by the neck, it would just support him by the chest.
Right.
You know?
And so what happens if it's around his neck and the dog were to lunge off the table and say your back was turned for just a moment, which we'll talk about that in a second too. If God forbid that were to happen, what could happen?
He could choke. Yeah.
And these are some of the things that unfortunately we hear about. Dogs coming home and their eyes are red and bulging out of their head, and a lot of times that is exactly what's going on. They're choking in their harness, and the groomers are on their phone, they're texting, they've turned their back, they've walked away. In grooming, do you ever walk away from a table or from your pet?
No. I always have one of our coworkers stand with the dog while, if I have to go check something out, I will always ask a coworker.
You always bring someone over.
Yes.
So safety is a number one priority. And that's another thing that as pet parents, we should ensure when you're taking your pet somewhere. You ask about these things. And frankly, if the owners or the groomers don't want to talk to you and answer your questions, and they seem annoyed or frustrated or less than helpful, should they stay there?
No, because it just seems like, there's just not that positive energy that you're looking for when grooming a dog.
Right. So you want to be in a place where the people is getting upset. So we're gonna stop that conversation, and we're gonna go back to Baci, who has been extremely patient with us as we try to talk to some of what compassionate pet care is about. Let's remain compassionate for him. How about, so we're getting close to the end of our podcast here. Maybe you could show a little bit of the cleaning up between the eyes and what that looks like.
I'm gonna grab thinnings shears. There's tiny little scissors with little teeth on them.
Okay.
It'll help out blend, and it's just safer if you're working around the eyes as well.
Now this, I would imagine, is a tricky business.
Yes.
Cutting hair between a dog's eyes.
Very tricky.
A moving, breathing, sentient animal who maybe is losing his patience a little bit. So we'll see how he does.
Let me see.
So you're gonna hold his chin again to try and steady his head?
Yes, I'm gonna try to hold his chin. If he doesn't let me, I would try something else, but right now it seems like he is letting me. Hi, handsome boy.
And I'm also giving him little scratchies down his back and holding his booty.
So right now I'm combing, I am combing. Let me switch him over here. Come on, sir. Come here, baby. Hi, you're doing so good. Yes, thank you.
So if they don't let you do something, especially as a puppy, you just move on to something else.
Yeah, I change the subject. Distract them.
Just like with a toddler. Just like with a little kid. Okay. So we'll see how he does.
Hi.
And if he's not interested.
Good.
Okay, so I see you are snipping the hair quickly but safely with these very safe little scissors.
Yes.
Between his eyes.
Come here, baby boy. Good job. I am talking to him. I'm also trying to not just only go straight and scissor the eyes. I'm also like massaging in there so he could kind of get used to being touched around there.
So you're desensitizing him a little bit. Got it. Same thing with the feet. That's what I always told my parents, my pet parents over the years with the puppies. Take them home, touch their feet constantly, play with their tootsies, play with their faces, hold their chins so that they get used to that. I'm going to do some scratchies on your booty.
So sometimes they are very curious on what you're putting near their face, so I will let them smell it, but I obviously won't put the teeth around their nose or their mouth, because if they go to lick it or bite it, they can, nick themselves with the scissor.
Sure.
Hi, good boy.
Well, that's okay. If he's out of patience for us and for that, we can move on to something else, which is maybe talk about how people can find you. Do you have a website?
It is in the works, but it will be up.
Do you have an email address?
Yes.
If people want to write you.
It is Pawfect Pooch at iCloud.com.
Perfect. And it doesn't really matter, because what we will do is, for the folks listening or watching on YouTube, we will also upload your information, your profile, your phone number, so that if anybody locally wants to talk to you, or even groomers who maybe either you've been grooming for a lot of years or you want to become a groomer, you want to find out more information, would you be open to people reaching out to you?
Of course, yeah.
That's
I'd be
great.
more than happy to have a conversation with them.
That's really nice, especially because it's about compassionate pet care specifically, and maybe learning about energy and energy as it relates to working with animals. And so, you have to learn more about your own personal energy so that you can learn about how to communicate. Because frankly, that is one of the, we don't speak dog or cat necessarily,
I wish.
not usually, and they don't speak English, although they do learn a few words from us, but being able to communicate through energy and love is a great way to let them know that we are with them, we're on their side, and we're working with them and for them. How about, do we have a minute to maybe try the sanitary cut? We can talk about what that is.
Of course. So the sanitary cut is usually when you clean up in by his rump area and underneath.
So why is it called a sanitary cut? What is the meaning behind that?
It's just
so it's like when they go to the bathroom, basically, right?
Yes.
So they're having bowel movements or they're urinating. You want to keep that area clean and tidy,
so that it doesn't get on the fur.
Or in the parent's household and that kind of thing. So that is a general, regular thing that we do in grooming is clean around the booty and clean underneath the sanitary area. And that's a nice thing to do for the pet parents as well as for the animals. And so maybe you can just demonstrate a little bit around the booty if he'll let you. And we'll do it partially. We won't do all of it.
Put him in the belly so that way he doesn't sit down. I am gonna.
Want me to hold that up for you? Would that help?
Of course.
Super.
And then I'm gonna grab
nice
my
blue tail, Baci.
and I'm gonna go from side to side.
So I noticed that you're not really even touching the skin.
No.
You're just being really careful to cut the hair away.
Yes.
And so again, gentle.
Gentle, yes.
Less is more sometimes. Yeah.
And he's all
very
set.
nice. You have a nice, perfectly coiffed booty, my good sir. All right, so I think we've got a really nice start here with learning about what compassionate pet care is for our audience, for our listeners, and for anybody on YouTube watching. I would really love it if maybe in the future we could do this again, maybe with another, instead of a puppy, maybe we do an older pet, because in gentle pet care it's really important to know how to take care of all sorts of animals, whether it's fear-based aggression, pets with a lot of stress, older, advanced age pets who are maybe blind, losing their hearing. They're really stressed out in grooming, aren't they? They come to a place they sometimes they can't even see anymore. They don't know what's going on. Sometimes they actually get dementia like people do, and it's not easy for them anymore. And so they need to go to a place where they feel safe and comfortable and confident. So that'd be really great if we could do this again. I'd love to have you on, and maybe we could talk a little bit more about this.
I would love that too.
Baci, I love you. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of this today. Could I give him a carrot before I go?
Yes, of course.
Thank you so much, you guys. This was a pleasure. I hope that our audience enjoyed this as well. You can find Vickie's information. This has been Erica Salvemini for the Rising Lioness Podcast on All About Animals Radio. Thank you so much for joining us. A special thank you to Chris Corley for generously lending us his song, Zero Gravity, for the Rising Lioness Podcast theme. Please take a moment to write a review for our show as it helps others to find us. Please also support our guests and their work, All About Animals Radio, and our social networks. Doing this further supports the animals and their advocates too, thereby making you an Animal Kingdom warrior also. You can find our links on the Rising Lioness podcast page. Until next time, in the words of Sharon Nunez, Animal Equality President, remember this: the small actions of one passionate individual can create a butterfly effect, leading to a movement that has the power to change the world. Please use your voice for the animals today.